Today I'm here with Alex Roubian, and we are at the 2015 Gun Rights Policy Conference in Arizona. And I wanted to talk to Alex because he gave a speech yesterday that was really full of high energy, and he had a lot of things to say. So Alex, why don't you explain where you're from and why you're here?
My name is Alexander Roubian. I'm the president of the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. I live in New Jersey. I'm here this weekend because I want to network. I want to learn more about activism, also be able to get educational material about what's going on the federal side as well as a lot of stateside activism in regard to restoring our rights for the Second Amendment.
And what brought you to be a Second Amendment activist?
I never thought much about the Second Amendment. There's stories from my mother's side of the family how Fidel Castro smashed in our door and put guns in my family's face and said everything that you own is now the property of the government of Cuba. On my father's side, we're Armenian. We were religiously persecuted against by the Ottoman Turks, where over 2.5 million Armenians were massacred and murdered. Luckily, my great-grandparents survived. But in both cases, those crimes were perpetuated because of registration of firearms and because of confiscation of firearms. And what really led me to take a stance and say enough is enough is when I was walking home on May 25th, 2011 from my office, and a man 20 feet behind me was shot by 3 teenagers for practically nothing. They didn't rob him, they were just probably doing it for some fun or some form of gang initiation. And it was a very surreal moment that if I took one more text message at my office or one more phone call or got stopped at a red light, I was dressed in a nice suit and this man was a busboy working a very hard day, going home to his family. He was a father, and it literally caused me to lose a lot of rest over that.
Now, what are you talked about some of the different types of activism that you do in New Jersey. Can you tell us one of the stories that you spoke about yesterday? Because I thought that was pretty good, and it's exactly something the left always does, but they don't necessarily like it when the narrative flipped on them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, basically, the New Jersey Second Amendment Society, we started in 2010. We're about 5 years old, and we did the diplomatic stuff, which was meeting with legislators, having meetings, going and testifying in Trenton. Year after year after year, they just laughed in our face. They turned our microphones off. They literally kicked us out of hearings, where, even in the meetings, they would just tell us what we want to hear and then turn the narrative around and say, well, we met with both sides, and we both agree. Where we're standing there in the crowd and saying, we didn't agree to anything you said. But on the books, they show that they met with this group and they met with that group. So they're masters in manipulation. So what really turned us around and made it realize that this is a waste of time, they're laughing at us, it's not about facts, it's about their agenda, was when a few months ago Carol Bound was murdered. And it was not because of the psychopath that killed her, which she had a restraining order against, it's because of gun control. It's gun control that led her to be disarmed. When she knew, as a 5-foot woman weighing 95 pounds, to go up against her psychotic, convicted felon, violent ex-boyfriend that was 6'4", 250 pounds, she knew the only thing that would save her was a gun. And as she was begging for over a month and a half, begging the government of New Jersey, please issue me my firearm, which she didn't even know there was a difference between a purchase permit and a concealed carry permit. She applied for the purchase permit. She waited and waited and waited for the government's permission, and on the 45th day, she was found murdered in her driveway. Right.
We have talked about that. I have written about it because that is beyond disturbing.
And this happens. I mean, this isn't just one incident. This happens every day in New Jersey. Every year, there's a modern-day genocide going on with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of New Jerseyans their choice to self-defense was already made by the government of New Jersey, is taken away from them. And when they're not given that choice of how they can defend themselves, that's what leads to the murders every year.
Right, it's the legislators who are actually worse than the criminals in those cases.
They're protecting the criminals. Right. That's exactly what they do.
So now what did you do, some of the action that you took as a result of this? Because this actually got national attention, maybe not so much from the lamestream media, but it got national attention from a lot of people because it's such a horrific case, and a case that shows that it's legislators that are hurting law-abiding citizens
Of course.
and doing none of their legislation does a darn thing to
Exactly.
criminals. So what did you do as a result?
Well, I mean, obviously we know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We did that for 4 years. I made it personal. The man that's in charge of all the laws and all the bills that are proposed in New Jersey is the Senate President, Stephen Sweeney. I actually found his address, and I actually did a protest at his house. And when people ask me, why did you do that? Why don't you just meet in his office? I met in his office for over 4 years.
Right.
Where did that get us? Nowhere. You know,
Right.
and that where that actually led us is to another innocent person being murdered because of his stubbornness, and he's one of the most arrogant, cocky people I've ever met in my life. And we held protests for 2 consecutive weekends in his house, and instead of being diplomatic and being responsive and wanting to hear people's concerns and realizing that because of him, because of his laws and what he supports, this woman is murdered, he turns the sprinklers on us. And calls the cops, has armed security all day. The police chief himself left his vacation down to shore to come and personally protect him and his family against peaceful protesters. But he tells the media that the reason why this woman was murdered is because there's a lack of police in New Jersey. They are overburdened, except this guy has 5 cops sitting, waiting, protecting him and his family against law-abiding citizens, peaceful protesters, doing nothing, saying nothing, just holding signs of this woman, asking and begging that we change the laws in New Jersey.
So his reasoning wasn't that she couldn't protect herself thanks to his type. His reasoning was, oh, we just need more cops.
Exactly.
Were they going to have Carol Bone carry a cop?
That's a great question. Maybe you can reach out to his office and find out what his solution is.
That might not be a bad idea,
Yeah.
because even if she had gotten that pistol, she still couldn't have had it in her car because of the laws
exactly.
there.
Well, she would have had it. She would have been allowed to have it in her home, and if she had it in her car, which in that situation, all she could be doing is going from the range back home.
Yep.
But it would have been in the car, locked in a container in the trunk, unloaded.
Right. So it wouldn't have helped her.
What would have helped her? The security cameras actually caught the brutal attack. So he basically bum rushed her. And what's she supposed to do? Excuse me, can you wait a second while I load my firearm? You're violating of the law?
Yeah.
It's just insanity. It's just craziness what's going on, and it blows my mind that people are actually defending the laws, saying that they are actually working.
And that's, we're 100% with you, and that's what I don't understand, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because New Jersey is probably one of the worst states.
It is the worst state.
For self-defense rights. You know, it's a fundamental human right. And even when you have a prime example of a case, you have this beautiful woman who did everything that the police told her to do.
Exactly.
Get the restraining order, which, as we know, is just a piece of paper and it wouldn't have done anything. Even when she does everything they say to do, it still doesn't help.
It still doesn't help.
Because when she wanted to do the one thing, defend herself, she wasn't allowed to.
Exactly.
So do you think that you made a little bit of a difference by doing what you did, because what you did by protesting at his house, that's more painful to him
Exactly.
than chit-chatting in his office?
Well, but now it's changed the narrative. Now they actually got coverage to bring to light the hypocrisy which goes on. He protects himself. He has a concealed carry permit. He told me he does in 2013 when we were in the elevator together. And he actually has, you know, within minutes, if not seconds of being on his front side, on the sidewalk in his front property, the cops were there. So he has full-time armed guards in Trenton, where the State House is, in his office, as well as in his home. But when it's you and I, average citizens, they're just said, well, wait till the police show up, you know, then they'll protect you.
Basically, they'll draw the chalk line.
They'll draw the chalk line. They'll make a report, and then they'll look for someone and hopefully catch the criminal.
So, do you think, as a result of this case, I know there's others that we just never hear about, especially outside of the state. Do you think that as a result of this, some people will actually wake up? Whether it's the politicians probably won't until it's demanded by the voters.
Yeah.
Do you think more people in New Jersey are going to push their legislators to change the laws so that women like Carol Bone and men like you can protect yourselves, so you won't die at the hands of some criminal thanks to gun control laws?
Absolutely. I mean, it's sad that we have to fight this much. It's sad that we have to participate in these activities. That's so common sense. Just allow me to protect myself the same way you guys protect yourselves, the same way these elitists protect themselves. So, we are constantly, we're still fighting, we're still pushing, we still have some forms of activism that we're developing right now to bring to light the issues and to force them to change the law so that we can just exercise our natural, inalienable human rights, which is self-defense.
Thank you very much. And I will keep in touch because I want to keep updated on what you guys do and what happens as a result.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you for fighting. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.